This will be a debate on cultural cooperation in Central Europe, legacy and present. And in this debate concentrated on Free Seas initiative and this mass mentioned by Richard, language mass and other examples of it, is to be presented by honored guests. I introduce first Mrs. Maja Wawrzyk, and I invite you, please, who is Executive Deputy Director of Visegrad Fund, so she is responsible for money given for all the projects which are interesting for us. And I would like to introduce our host, Director Łukasz Galusek. I invite you, please, who is Deputy Director of International Cultural Center, and he is also working on heritage, architecture, literature in Central Europe. So we know very well that we are in a proper place if there is such a director here. And Mr. Paweł Szczepanik, representative of President of Krakow, Mayor of the city of Krakow, who is interested in archaeology, architecture, music, and so we could listen to him and on the radio, and he is also interested very much in Central European culture. And finally, Ciprian, who is an artist, visual artist, contemporary artist from Romania. His works we can observe in the Gallery of International Cultural Center, and we could also see one example yesterday at the beginning of the exhibition about that what we can only partly sense it, if I could remember the title. And this is discussion about the Free Seas initiative. Let me remind you first that there were three basic slogans of this initiative. It was about that what connects all these nations and countries, connectivity, commerciality, and what was the third? It was, I have a cheat sheet, sorry for that. I wanted to be so smart. I was wrong. Complementarity, it was the third word used 10 years ago when this initiative was started. This initiative was intended to be connected especially with energy, telecommunication, but we are interested in art and culture. And these questions which are to be asked during our debate are connected with, especially with culture. These are simple questions, very. simple and very basic. Namely, is there something in common for all Three Seas countries? Do we have some features, some values, qualities, basic elements which are common for all these countries? Do we have them? Can we find such elements? Can we reveal them, or we can only partly sense it, or we can hardly sense it? This is the question. Perhaps I would address this question to our host, Director Galusek. It is actually addressed to all of you, but perhaps the host has the first word. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, I guess this is the question for all of us, because this is just the essence of the most important question, whether our initiatives will succeed or whether it will fail. Of course, we can talk for a long time looking for different issues which we have in common, as well as those which we do not share. So trying to be the simplest and the shortest. Even when I look at this map of the Three Seas initiative, I clearly can see that what we have in common is a kind of destiny here in this part of Europe, which means that we have a strong will, and we succeed with this, to live in our own states according to our own values, but at the same time we are constantly looking for some broader connective tissue. Might it be a cultural space in terms of culture, but also in terms of politics, in terms of economy, because it might be a little bit contradictory that as much as we want to live on our own, allows some other factors and powers from the outside to use the universal principle of ruling divide et impera. If you, as much small you are, it's easier to be ruled, or it's easier to rule over you. So I think that we have to somehow to bridge this contradictory directions, yeah, that we want to be on our own, but at the same time we don't want to be an object. So for me, all the initiatives looking for some cooperation, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we can call them a different way, but the essence of them is the same. It's about subjectivity. To be subject, not an object. So, of course, we can quarrel whether the Visegrad countries or Central European idea or Three Seas, they are not competitive. But however we name them, it is looking for some name which is our own. Otherwise, we will be named by the others, and this is just a pure colonial colonial attitude. Yeah, so this is not about the countries, which countries are belonging to that initiative. It is not about the language. It is not about the religion. It is not about the common past. I think it's a club to which everyone is allowed who shares this attitude, looking for some subjectivity in a condition that the national state is not enough, because sometimes it's too fragile to act and not to be ruled or dictated by someone from the outside. So maybe in the shortest way, but you are of course invited to discuss with this idea.
And other opinions? Paweł, Szczepanik.
Good afternoon, everyone. Director Galusek has actually touched two very important factors that I was thinking of when I was coming to the International Cultural Center. The first thing is the perspective of nationality, which is, as you said, very, very fragile. And of course, perhaps it's not a very fortunate metaphor, but if you take a look at the map of the continent of Africa, you can see how it looks like when someone treats you like an object, and also when someone somehow imposes the idea of nationality on you. And it's a very dangerous idea and a very dangerous perspective. Also, there is a second thing I would like to shed light on, because, of course, we as humans tend to categorize things. And of course, it makes the world much more simple, understandable, and it's those rigid frames we like to use and we like to put on things make it much easier for us to understand the complexity of the world and of societies, and of course the reality that surrounds us. So the light I would like to shed on is the perspective that the more eagerly we are trying to look for something that binds us, for something that connects us, creates also another very fragile situation, that we are also dividing that common group, society, whatever we name it, from the others. Therefore, I would like to point out that, of course, we are looking for common grounds. We are hooking on common values, on common experiences, languages, whatever it might be. But also we need to be very, very careful in dividing things rather than connecting them, and looking for those common fields, common grounds that we can try to share. And therefore, when we try to share, then we can start to cooperate. Therefore, this perspective of free cities, of Visegrad countries, this is something which I try to treat as a simplification, but also as a starting point for broadening the perspective and broadening the cooperation, broadening the common thought that actually transcends us, not only as Polish, Eastern European, but as a whole, as a humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. And Maja, Wawrzyk, your opinion?
Thank you very much. I very much agree what have been said. I would like to add one additional point based on my experience from the Visegrad Fund. And in fact, it's very helpful to have this map in front of us because we see a lot of...
It is thanks to our yesterday discussion. So it's your...
Human creativity is
yes,
always growing. So what I wanted to add, it's related to the beginning of the Visegrad Fund. I know that we will have next panel focused on this institution, but let me right now just very briefly come back to 2000 when stakeholders, decision makers from Visegrad countries decided to establish such an institution, and what was the reason back then. The reason was that at that time they noticed that our, let's call it new European countries, in terms of the European Union, population of those countries naturally focused on Western Europe. It was our point of reference. Everybody dreamt about going there for holidays, just to know, for scholarships, for studies, for work. And they noticed that, in fact, although we share the same history in a large extent, nowadays we don't know each other very well. So they had, in my opinion, this great idea to establish an institution which will help people to realize their ideas. This bottom-up principle, it's essential one for the Visegrad Fund. And when I see this map, what came to my mind is that in this line, let's say, this eastern flank, we don't know each other. So I would not looking for common cultural features, because frankly speaking, having this very large dimension, geographical dimension, different histories, different religions, I would not go so deeply to find something in common, but something on the meta level, as this subjectivity, for example, that was mentioned, but as well this fact that maybe only like northern part of Europe know well Croatia and Greece, but only for like holidays reasons. But if we ask somebody from Lithuania about Bulgaria, probably they will have some very general remarks, and vice versa. So in this sense, and as well when we see this map, we saw western part, it's geographically so different. Like we have very big countries and only Benelux and Switzerland, which is like completely apart, culturally speaking as well. And we have our part, like marked here, when you have a lot of small countries with this difficult history of foreign powerful imperiums trying to like eat them. So yeah, to conclude, I would add this this factor that we don't know each other, and it will be very useful to increase this consciousness about each other.
Thank you. And Ciprian? Does it work?
Does it work? Yeah. Yeah, I'm agree with with Maja, because I was thinking when you send us the questions, I was thinking that our common one of our common and especially in art history or in art scenes in Romania, we look at the center, the west, and New York, Paris, and we don't know each other. Yeah, I mean the neighbor. We are. My city is very close to Ukraine. I don't know. We didn't had any relation with Ukraine. Timișoara also with Serbia, probably the same. It's not so. Yeah, but when I met the Lithuanian artist here about that, he was telling me, I know films from Romania because they were in cinema in Lithuania. So now after the '89, somehow we stopped this kind of let's say dialogue or connection, like But now maybe with Netflix, I saw some Polish films. And I remember from when I was young, like Ambulance or something like some series, like Polish, or Dark Clouds or something like this. Yeah, but who were for sure Polish. But and like to also I think the one thing in common we have, it's a humor sense, especially I don't know with Bulgarians and with Czech Republic. I find it very, I don't know with Polish, but very close. So we understand our jokes, and with Western countries not much. I mean, and so this sense of humor, especially in art, like I don't know if you know Solakov, the Bulgarian artist, or Perzhovsky, the Romanian one, or the I don't know or even in Austria, the Gelatin group, or yeah, we have something in common. I mean, in art, I find it. You mentioned the ironic, like criticism, ironic, yeah, and we have this, but yeah, and in conclusion to this art history we have, I mean, in Romania, we have to rewrite it not looking, I mean, not the face to the West, but to, I don't know, also to introspective to us, but also to the region somehow. So the rewrite, we have, at least Romania, we need to rewrite the history, art history. I mean, to not be as a kind of annexa to other art histories, yeah. And that's why somehow Petrovsky's Peripheries United, for me, it makes sense, because otherwise, yeah, it makes sense for me. Yeah, this is the conclusion.
Thank you very much. Before we ask the next question, I would like to develop some reflections given by you. Do you think that subjectivity on one hand, on the other, kind of resistance created in this humor you mentioned, in irony, isn't it a value which is, are they values which really connect us? These are two of them, and perhaps this variety of languages, so many banners, so many nations and so many languages. In fact, many of them are Slavic, but not all of them. Is it a wealth, or isn't it a value which is kind of power of this region, don't you think? I don't know. Yes, please.
Of course, I agree with you. It's not an obstacle, but extreme value and an evidence of a richness. Again, looking at the map, we have a huge area of which is purely German-speaking, and huge area when you have only one language, French. Yeah. In fact, at the bottom of this surface, there were many languages which they somehow appear in some poetry, like the Provence language, for example. But in general, this is the effect of modernization in a brackets that we have from the English Channel to the Mediterranean Sea, only one language. Yeah. So I would, when Ciprian was describing the situation, I felt a little bit how I would describe what he was talking about. telling that he feels that he has a lot of connection with some Western world, in terms of codes, cultural codes. In my opinion, nowadays, empire rules in our imagination. So we are not aware that we were forced to live in a frames created by someone else. This is very smooth, very soft, but it happens. We understand the codes produced over the ocean, and for me, it creates a feeling of loneliness, because there is no direct contact, direct touch. And suddenly you discover, when you meet Lithuanian artists, you discover that you have much more in common, because we can communicate and we understand jokes, which over the ocean no one would even recognize as a joke. But again, this is, in my opinion, smoothly imperial, that we think that we need a mediation to talk to the Lithuanian or Bulgarian or Croatian friend. Yeah. So let's think about this situation. I remember from the early 90s a discussion on Europeanness and Central Europeanness. In Poland, there was a very important voice of Leopold Unger, a journalist, let's say Polish journalist, whose origins were in Lviv, nowadays Ukraine, but he was an emigre in Brussels and quite influential in the 70s and 80s. And after the collapse of communism, he said, let's leave Central Europe, let's be Europeans, let's join Europe. And on the opposite side was the opinion of Krzysztof Czyżewski, also my mentor personally, who said, no, it's the biggest mistake. We have to be Central Europeans to learn what does it mean to be Central Europeans, and only then we can be Europeans. What did he mean? He mean that being an imagined European means to live and escape from all the things which we have here in our home, between our neighbors, join some imaginary community without solving real problems here. Problems with memory, problems with history, which opened after the collapse of communism. And only dealing with these problems, solving them, we can fully be part of something broader, which is European. And that is what we are trying to do here. And in my opinion, this is what art have been doing, keeps doing in our part of Europe. Important job dealing with all those things which seems to be different at the first time, but deeper in, they really connects us.
Thank you.
May I? I have to say here that I have a mental problem with our jumping from different regional categories. Because the topic of our discussion is 3Cs region. And then we have a tendency, because we are in Poland and we are here like more representing central part of 3Cs, refer to this part of Europe. And it makes a kind of confusion intellectually for me. Because speaking about irony, for example, I would agree that it's a characteristic of former Soviet bloc. But either it is if it is a characteristic for the Three Seas region, I'm not sure. I don't know Greece enough to say whether they are ironic. Austria I know a bit, and I would not describe Austrian by this word, but I see Great Britain and Monty Python. So, since I'm looking for this common characteristic, since you sent your simple questions to us, I would not put the irony on the list.
But imagination, it was words mentioned by director Galusek. I suppose this is very important element, and perhaps we have something in common in our imagination, in spite of all differences between Poles and, for instance, I don't know, Romanians and Estonians, but I think there is something Central European which are in common in writings of Polish authors and Austrian authors too. I think imagination, isn't it a place when we can really contact and understand each other? How do you think? Ciprian,
No, what I wanted to add, and maybe answer to your question, it's also that I didn't want to say that we have humor and they don't. We have another kind of humor. And also maybe absurdity, because, I don't know, in Romania they are proud with UNESCO, but okay, I know for sure that we don't invented absurd theater, but he was one of the, so maybe absurdity. And this, Richard showed the Bulgarian model. So this is a pure example of this. And, yeah. So, and I guess it's common also in literature. And yeah.
Yes. Perhaps it is time to ask the second question. Can we find the examples of such, let's say, quest for these common elements in art, in culture, or in the activity of cultural institutions? How do you think? Can you find such examples of similar debate as we have now, but in art or in culture? This is also to all of you. So perhaps the lady.
So I will be skeptical again. Well, I'm not an artist. I professionally.
You are financing artistic projects.
Professionally, I'm more connected to institutions, let's say. So I'm sitting, as you are saying, on another side. I do not create, but what I'm doing, I'm trying to help artists to create.
Estimating artistic projects.
So I would say that the only common characteristic that I see in this region is the lack of financial comfort in what they are doing. Because again, comparing to Western Europe, they don't have to deal with budgetary issues like buying, I don't know, frames for the exhibition upcoming in a couple of days. And this is what I experience in this part of Europe. But in terms of institutional culture, I would say that we are very different, and this comes from different traditions that we had in this region. I mean, like all institutions, they reflect always mentality of people living in a certain part of our globe, and mentality in Estonia is completely different than in Croatia and Bulgaria, not forgetting the central part. So in terms of dealing with different questions, creativity maybe sometimes, we we are different here.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add also something, that in Romania we still have to deal with building the institutions, especially for contemporary art or for modern art, let's say. We had some, like a net of union of artists who collapsed totally. It still exists, but it's like kind of amateur now, almost. And comparing with what was before 89, it's a disaster. So Romania is still very, let's say, I mean, we still have problem with building the institution too. I mean, the city council or the in my city in Cluj, still not we don't have actually any institution for contemporary art in Cluj, like state or like state public. Yeah. So it's more we have a net of private. Yeah.
So, little bit self-reflection, but perhaps some other opinions about cultural activity, examples of art, about Central Europe or rather Free Seas countries. Do you see any examples of that?
I would firstly address it to Ciprian because we have many institutions that are dedicated to modern art, and actually I'm very happy because it shows how lively this is, and also shows on the other hand the model that is overwhelming in Poland actually in terms of organizing, so to say, culture, that we love and tend to institutionalize everything. And of course it helps because these are the somehow frames I told before that helps us to develop something in a model that is somehow understandable, controllable, etc., etc. Yeah? But I'm referring to your question, Rafał. I'm in this comfortable situation that I specialize in music, and the language of music is on a very, very meta level comparing to the languages we operate on our daily basis. Therefore, it's I would dare to say that it's much more universal than national languages or small homelands languages, etc., etc., etc. But of course, it's readable, it's understandable only for a particular cultural center as well. And I would put it in a kind of Western circle, of course, because music we create, not only in Poland, but in Free Seas countries in Europe, is somehow different than the music that is being created in, for instance, East Asia, Southern Asia, etc., Africa, of course, even if we try to build on that. Yet, this language is much more universal, and of course, those common grounds of development of the so-called European music are really common, actually. Of course, they take their stem and they are rooted in a Latin, let's say, cultural circle. But actually, music is a kind of language that also spreads very easily and circulates around the whole Europe, actually. I remember the story of Telemann. I don't know if he was German composer or he was partly Polish composer or perhaps Bohemian composer. We'd like to, you know, put some names, but actually we don't know. And he traveled around Bohemia, Germany, Poland, and gathered music just to create a new music on this basis. And actually this new music had this feeling of all those experiences, but actually it was genuinely new music. So it was kind of new language that somehow connected all those experiences into one. So it's also a beautiful metaphor of what music might create.
Thank you very much. I think that music is a very good example because not only classical music. I remember I was young, I was connected with subcultures, and I remember it's a very popular band called Laibach and Neue Slowenische Kunst, which is an example of critical art, but also music, and they were very well known. You know, I think this is for me this is good example. But Director Galusek, please.
My opinion and my attitude is, if you feel that there is nothing which connects us, let's create it.
It was the next question.
And artists know better than anyone else how powerful is putting things together or moving things. Yeah, an ordinary object moved into another circumstances becomes something else. Yeah, so ready-made, you know, this kind of acting. Yeah, and putting things together and creating suggestive, powerful, new reality. Yeah. So I would give you an example. Without a single book in which we have artists and biographies, destinies together with the art from our part of Europe, in this one book you could discover how much they have in common without saying that they were the same, because we are in a trap that we are different, so we cannot have anything in common. We do not need to be the same, but at the same time there might be something what we have in common. I was born during the communist times, and we had no contact with modern art, and we were I was educated in the connection to the Western art, but the logic was that in a one book was accommodated art from Portugal, Italy up to Scotland, and it was given to me to believe as granted that exists a kind of Western European art. But I couldn't believe when I saw Gothic from Portugal and Gothic from Scotland that this is the same. However, someone named it, this is Gothic, it has a lot in common. Yeah? And then was always a chapter saying about Polish art. Well, there is something in common, but also there is very much difference, yeah? So, bold Western art and lonely Poland, which has something in common, but a lot of differences as well, yeah? Without the context of Czech Republic and beautiful Gothic Prague, for example, yeah? So this was the logic, and the answer to that logic is, let's put our countries together in one book, and let's see, maybe we fail. But according to the logic, when you put something together, you find also some common things. Until you do it, you probably couldn't see. So still this is a task, and there are of course an efforts. For example, in the field of literature, Visegrad did a lot of things. Yeah, putting writers within the framework of the festival, within the framework of anthology. Yeah, and this is fruitful. Really, they start to speak to each other.
I think that the activity of Czarne editorial house, isn't it the example of research on Central Europe in many domains made by these writers, and this editorial house made by Andrzej Stasiuk. Well, I'm thinking so we have 10 minutes to continue this question concerning art about or culture connected with Free Seas countries. How does such an art should look like? We know already because we could see the exhibition yesterday, and we have the examples of art made or art objects made by artists in context of Free Seas countries, but perhaps you, Ciprian, have any other ideas, new visions?
No, but for me somehow, like very personally, I still looking for the meaning of art in society. I don't know, I don't find it yet, or I find it in many ways, many directions. So of course could be critical or could be affirmative or what, yeah. But when I was younger, I believed that we should be a critic, and for me this and my works were like this. And then I realized when I saw, I don't know, an apple painted by Cézanne, then okay, well, this is art also. I mean, you cannot say that. So somehow I cross all these not directions, but all the perspective, let's say, from and I don't know if we can answer what is the role, or what is the role in the society of what art have to, how should it be, or what function should have.
But this connection between literature and architecture, let's say, as in your work, it is exactly the subject of your researches.
Yes, and then also of art history, and then I try to, let's say, I have a work which is also exhibited in Warsaw in the museum, now the newly museum open. I try to, because I saw in the museum in Cluj, in my town, that they hide after 89 a few masterpieces, but of course social realist. So they were artists who were very good and modernist, but then of course they, let's say, try also to adapt to social realism, and then they did some art which now is considered bad because we changed the system, the political system. And then I try to see how I can use them, or how I can, I don't know. First I said, okay, I will use them physically, like the weight. I use them to press my engravings, because I need some weight to press my engravings, and so I took some social realist sculptures, which were bronze and stone, and I put them just to press. So I tried to give function to art, and to re-evaluate it was ironically, but also in the same time I showed them for the first time after '89. So was ironically, but I give them again a bit of light, you know. Yeah. So for me, I'm still researching, or I'm still looking for how art should be. I don't know if I will. Probably not. But
I was trying to provoke you to say something about your inspirations. One of my reflection after yesterday's opening of the exhibition was that reading the architecture of a city as a book, that could be something interesting in contemporary art, and it can say something about our common historical experiences.
Yeah.
So it was, sorry.
No. For me, I mean, sorry, I don't answer your question. Sorry. Yeah, I feel like I cannot. No, I'm joking. But yes, the idea behind this work, which I don't consider it yet work, it's just a research. How we develop with Călin in the residency here. So I saw first your presentation and was very inspired when you talk about the city of Krakow and the history, and but I felt that okay, I cannot come like in 2 weeks to do something like quick with like to react to Krakow. It was too, I mean, how to do, I mean, it was too, let's say, forced. I don't know. And then I said, okay, but what I'm working on with Călin, because our discussion were about my catalog for the museum in Bucharest, about this book. And then I said we can transform it in a city, like and somehow comparing also with or relating with Duchamp valise work, which he put all his works in a valise and then you can open it. And also I brought the work. I bring it here by car in the box, so everything it's inside the box, so you can put everything in one box. Yeah, yeah, and I don't know what. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for this lecture. I understand it was too heavy to everybody, and your reflections about possibilities of contemporary art.
I would refer to the very beginning of our conversation when Maja said that we don't talk to each other in terms of the free CIS countries, and we do not know each other. And somehow I believe it is true, because after 1989, possibly we all tended to look further west, to somehow digest all the new experiences we're faced with. Of course, the free market, but of course, this Western art you've talked about. And this perspective wasn't concentrated on a dialogue among us, but rather on sucking and all the experiences that came from the Western Europe. And actually, perhaps it is a good time to reflect on that, and perhaps to look toward each other's, and perhaps to open a dialogue and to get to know each other from the free CIS, let's say, countries, Visegrad countries, whatever we name it. Because what you have said about the idea of Krzysztof Czyżewski, it's very close to me, actually. Because without knowing our own identity, we will do not know the further identity we'd like to share and connect with. That's the first point. The second point is that my role as a plenipotentiary of the mayor of Krakow for culture is to create a framework which is safe and comfortable for the artists to operate in. Their role as artists is to break boundaries, to demolish walls, to develop new lands of imagination, of creation, etc. And my task is to keep them safe in that process, because of course we know that revolution might be bloody, and my task is that the revolution is soft and not bloody, of course, because without breaking those boundaries, we'll just keep in this safe perhaps, but also a very well-known part of reality, and I hope that we do not want that.
This organizational activity one can find conceptually artistic also. And director?
I'm thinking also about the message we have to formulate in order to complete somehow the TRISIS initiative. And this initiative was supposed to be, or seemed to be, initiative focused on infrastructure, but to organize new connections south west, which we miss a lot, like Rail Baltica or Via Carpathia. And this is really true, because we cannot fastly get to Bratislava with a new connection. We have to use old Austrian connection via Moravia Gate and so on and so on. But we have to say that university is also an infrastructure. Artistic festival, foundational fund, this is also an infrastructure. It is not art by definition, or we cannot say that by definition it has an intellectual or artistical value. Yeah, it may develop into an important point of our artistic activity. The same way as the road can connect, but of course sometimes it can't. For example, there is no need. So we have to complete this this list of infrastructure needed with the ideas working for culture. Yeah, someone may complain that Visegrad was too narrow. I deeply understand the reason why back in the 90s the idea of cooperation between those four countries in particular emerged, and it was impossible at that time to add post-Yugoslavian countries because they recently passed through the war. It was impossible to add post-Soviet countries because there was an afraid that they are slightly different, so it will be much harder to apply a real cooperation. So the Visegrad Fund appeared almost parallelly to the political initiative, and I may say that its fruits, its results are more powerful than political initiative nowadays. Yeah, so we have a pure evidence. Politics does not work, but the fruits of the fund in culture and cooperation and bringing people closer and together is obvious. So this kind of infrastructure is extremely important. We are looking for what kind or what formula it might be, but I in my opinion, it should be a strong message to complete this idea. And only after that, after establishing this kind of network or new institution or new initiative, we will see in few years or in a decade what kind of art emerges. So that's my let's say putting things and thoughts in order. Yeah, we cannot expect that the art will appear before we will somehow create the circumstances for this.
Thank you very much. And
yeah, and Watson, because I had very similar reflections during our discussion, that we should underline why this Treaties initiative appeared, because decision makers noticed that it's extremely difficult to travel from Estonia to Greece. And I experienced yesterday the small piece of this way, because if you look at the map where it's Bratislava and Krakow, you think that it's just up, slightly east, but then you travel first west and then again east, and you have to cross the Czech Republic to get to Krakow. So we complain that we don't know each other, but at the same time, it's like super difficult to travel in this north-south line, and till now always symbolically drive us to Rome, understood as a Western Europe. Referring to those remarks about the Visegrad group and fund, I'm always saying that people are always there, societies are always there, and their political representations change, because this is the natural rhythm of political life. So as the fund, we are not worried what is going on upper. We do our job, and we see every year that people are extremely satisfied, and we see fruits and projects and initiatives and new idea based on ideas previously supported by the fund. And I was thinking that to conclude this context here, Visegrad Context 1 and 3Cs initiative, and this initial idea of having North and South connected, maybe when we have Via Carpathia finally finished, then we can organize some kind of caravan, artistic caravan, going from Estonia to Greece and stopping in Krakow and being warmly received here.
what a performance we will have. We count on that. Ciprian, do you want to say something at the end?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't know, as I understand it, that now creating rules and or finding common grounds, and it's part of the culture. But art is somehow like breaking the rules. Not, I mean, yeah. So probably we have to have some rules now, and. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about this lack of institutions in Romania, and of course, good art probably will find a way between them, not necessary.
I hope it was interesting for the audience. Thank you for everybody for your presence and patience to us. Thank you again.